I will tell you things in the next 50 minutes you've never heard before in your life that will surprise the daylights out of you. You've never heard them, and I'm pretty sure your own personal physicians have never heard them. Because every time I ask somebody who's a physician, I've got two son-in-laws who are surgeons, you know what this is, they don't know it. None of this, believe it or not, is almost a national scandal. I'm going to teach you how to make the last 30 years of your life better than you could ever imagine they would be. No medical school teaches what I'm going to teach you. It's not taught anywhere. This is all just new stuff just starting out. And I always like to give people a little tidbit to make sure. When I started out as a trial lawyer, and a great trial lawyer said to me, Fred, no matter how good you are, you got to be sure they're listening. I said, how do you do that? He said, number one, you're loud and slow. But I said, number two, if people aren't looking, you got to drop your pants or whistle Dixie or something. Don't worry. But I'll give you just a little tidbit. We all were raised to think aging is a normal process, weren't we? Everybody gets old, it just happens, it's part of life, it's inevitable. Wrong. The World Health Organization just declared aging is a disease. When they declare it's a disease, that means there's a cure for it. And if you pursue the cure, you can pretty much cure aging. Now, you don't cure death. But instead of this long, slow decline down, you all saw your uncles and aunts and grandmothers living and they were frail and couldn't do anything. Instead of that, it goes like this. I am not kidding. I'm a trial lawyer. You may think this guy's a pretty good talker. That's what I do for a living. But I tell you, there is nothing. I look around in this room. You guys are my target audience. And there is nothing in the world you could learn that could change your life for the better more than what I'm going to tell you in the next 50 minutes. I promise you. This is no BS, and it works. So, this is all new, and everything I do on my slides is peer-reviewed stuff. A lot of old-time trial lawyers, they think I ought to write a book. I wrote this book because my wife bugged me to death. She said, you have this knowledge and nobody knows it. I got bugged into doing it. But it's hard to imagine. So when I was in my early 20s, I was a U.S. Army Ranger, and it's the hardest thing I've ever done, by far. And at 87, I'm not bragging, I'm stating a fact, and it's because of my wife that I'm standing here. I'll tell you about that in a minute. But I'm 87 years old. I shoot my Asian golf all the time. I ski the back bowls in Vail and ski the bumps fast with my 13-year-old granddaughter who's a ski racer at Alta. I'm living my life the way I always wanted to live it. There are no constraints. I never have to think, can I do that? All my buddies, a lot of them fell by the wayside, and they walk around, they look where they're going to walk and everything. I can teach you how not to fall down, how not to break your hip, how not to, some of you are starting to catch a toe now and then. I know that. I know how all this works. I don't have time to tell you everything, but I want to pique your interest, and then you can read the book, and then you can start doing research on your own. Now, what's happened? The whole understanding of aging is changing just with great speed right now. Our understanding has been totally incomplete. Most of my lectures are to medical schools, conventions of doctors from all over the world, and I always say, how many people here think that aging is a normal affect and that sarcopenia, which is loss of strength with aging, is inevitable? Every hand goes up. Smartest guys in the world. They all think aging, it's going to happen that way. Live with it. Recently, it's dramatically changed. New research, new stuff. I'm going to tell you the new stuff. You won't read this anywhere yet. And why? I've got a granddaughter who's the CBS investigative reporter in Channel 2 in Chicago. I said, Megan, this is a scandal. The world's full of people 55 to 90, and their lives can be dramatically improved, and none of this is taught in any medical school in America, not a bit of it. We checked them. I should show you my research. None of this is taught. So how did I get into this? As always, a woman was involved. So I'm 50 years old, 37 years ago, and I'm waiting for my best friend Lanny Martin in Marlowe's on 16th and Glenarm. In walks the most beautiful, fabulous looking woman I've ever seen in my life to this day. You know, just perfect. I'm sitting down there and we get to talking. And so I say, well, you know, let's get together sometime. And I'm just blown away. And like most guys that were ex-Army Rangers, I sort of thought I was God's gift to the female population of the world. I was 50, she was 35. We say, let's go to a gym. We go to a gym and work out. We walk out. I noticed that weighing 108 pounds, she squatted 225, 10 reps to parallel. Double body weight. Skinny little thing. Raised on a ranch in Texas, naturally strong. But we walk out and she says to me, you're going to be dead in 10 years. You're not doing anything. That's no kind of a workout. Women didn't talk to me that way. So I say, what should I do? And she says, I'll find a strip mall gym where there's a bunch of guys that are banging weights around and swearing and a real gym. And I'll find you a real trainer, you know, a guy whose neck is bigger than his waist. And I did it. We've been married 34 years now. But it started when I was 50, and by the time I got to be 60, I've always skied a lot, you know, 50, 60 days a year up in Vail. And my buddies were starting to fall by the wayside, guys my age. What's going on? They'd say, well, you know, my knees hurt or my back hurts or I'm falling down now and that. So being a trial lawyer, being a curious guy, I start doing research. And I'm getting up every morning at 3 for 10 years, and I'm reading all the peer-reviewed research there is in the world on what happens, what is aging, what's frailty with aging, what does it do to you, is there any cure for it, is it inevitable? And I started out, my focus originally was, I just wanted to stay a decent athlete so I could keep skiing and playing golf. But that minor little goal has overwhelmed my way of thinking. Today, I'm going to show you, and the stuff, this is major medical stuff. Harvard says there are 35 chronic diseases that kill us, and they're prevented by pumping iron. You never heard that. Imagine all these chronic diseases, and I'll show you the list, and I'll show you what Harvard said. And it's made me write a whole new narrative for what the last years of your life can be. When you're 60, as some people here are, your mode is 90. Counting term, statistical term, that means if you're 60, the most likely result will be 90. Some will be shorter, some longer, but that's pretty much what it's going to be. And that's 30 years. That's almost half of your adult life is after the age of 60. And the research shows that your life expectancy is 30 years at age 60. Your health expectancy is 8 years. I'll show you all this stuff. I'm not just asking you to remember. The top bioethicist in the world, Harvard, Oxford, Penn, he has written twice, 5 years ago and said it again just a month ago. He wrote advising people, giving advice to people that nobody should live older than 75 because life after 75 isn't worth living. That's Ezekiel Emanuel. He's one of the top doctors in the world, and he believes it. And most doctors believe it. He says pneumonia is a blessing because it kills quickly and it doesn't hurt. The day I read that the first time 5 years ago, I'd been skiing with my granddaughter running the gates in Vail, and I called him up because I know his brother Rob from there in Chicago, and I said, Zeke, this is crazy. I just had one of the best days of my life, and I'm 87. You know. So all I'm saying is, when I say to you, medical science doesn't get it, I'm not kidding. The top guys believe this. And I don't have time to tell you all the experience I have with physicians and doctors everywhere arguing about these things. And you're crazy. Take it easy. You're doing too much. All that stuff. All bad advice. Malpractice. Okay. Here's the recent developments. Number one, the FDA had a Sarcopenia conference. I was a witness. I testified at it. I said, I want to testify. They said, well, you have to be a victim. I said, everybody in America is a victim. So I sat up there with, 5 or 6 nice little old ladies my age, and we all held hands, and they all said how awful it was to be getting old because they're falling down and they embarrass their friends sometimes when they spill on themselves and stuff. And I'm sitting there listening to this. And I said, and the guy says, the head of it, the little guy with a nice little beard, European guy, he said, I'm not making fun, that's just the way I describe it. He said, nobody knows what causes frailty with aging or sarcopenia, and there is no cure. He said, can you read, Doc? I said, what do you mean? I said, you read Lieberman's book at Harvard? He's written a book on the cause of it. You ever heard of it? No. I said, you got 1,000 people here from all over the world, and you didn't even read the book that explains how this all comes to pass and what the cure is? It's true. Doctors don't know this. You ask your doctor. If he ever knows what sarcopenia is, he may know that. If you ask him if frailty with aging is inevitable, he'll say, yeah, it is. It just happens to everybody. Don't worry about it. Okay, this World Health Organization has now declared aging a disease. That means it can be cured, and I'm going to teach you how to cure it. Not living forever. You may not live any longer. You just live way, 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 way better. And who wouldn't take that a million times? It's the top medical organizations now, CDC, Harvard Medical School, the UK Colleges of Medicine, now have all written major stuff saying that the chronic diseases that kill us are prevented by intense physical exercise. Cancer, heart disease, Alzheimer's, unbelievable data there, diabetes, and way, way more. That's all brand new stuff. 10 years ago, nobody thought that. And the American Heart Association says that 80% of the chronic diseases are prevented by intense exercise. They're not talking about a nice walk after dinner, and I'll explain why. And that's part of it. But there's more than that, and anybody can do it, okay? And I finally learned why medical doctors know nothing about sarcopenia and exercise. I guarantee your doctors all said you should get some exercise. If you said what, they wouldn't know. I've got 2 son-in-laws who were top academic surgeons, the top on their faculties, paid almost as much as a football coach is, And when I started telling them about this, they resisted me. They said, no, you should be taking it easy at your age. I'm not bragging. I'm saying I did this research, and I've read it, and it's got nothing to do with individual abilities. It's got to do with there are things that each of you can do that will change your life, okay? And if I can, my wife says, I give a lot of talks. I was in Halifax, Nova Scotia. There were 50 people in the audience. I said, if I can change one person's life, I've had a fabulous life. I'm lucky beyond belief. If I can change one person's life, it's worth going to Nova Scotia, and maybe then she'll tell her friends. So it's worth it. Okay, this Sarcopenia conference. So, frailty with aging, the government decides one of the worst medical problems in the entire United States. Probably 2 years ago, you never even heard of sarcopenia. You knew people got frail, but you didn't know it's a disease. It starts at age 30. You lose about 1 or 2% of your strength every 4 or 5 years. At 60, it starts going like this. And after 70, if you spend 1 week on bed rest, you lose half of your strength. And you will never get it back unless you pump iron. And that's why you get older, you get, the muscles that lift your legs get weak. And I found myself catching my toe. I can tell what exercises to do so you don't do it. You do not want to fall down. 65%, half the people over 65 have a fall in the United States every year that changes their life forever. You do not want to fall. It's not anything to mess around with. And everybody does it. You all have friends that have fallen. Mitch McConnell, the Senate's fallen 5 or 6 times. He'll be a governor pretty soon. Okay, they said when the United States government says one of the worst medical problems there is, causes aren't known, he said, and in the room where I'm a trial lawyer, and Bayer and all the big health organizations, I do drug litigation, patent litigation, and sitting in the room are a bunch of my clients. I said, you guys aren't going to like this, these young men and women back there. I said, because they're saying it's all got to be medicine. The only cure is medicine, pharma. And the big pharma guys get up and they say, we think we have a drug that can reduce the time it takes somebody to walk across a room by 2%. And it'll only cost, it'll only cost the public, 14 to 15 billion with side effects. So the United States government gaining 2% of the time walking across a room is a big deal, and it's only pharma. There are lots of reasons there will never be a drug that'll do this. One of my co-authors is a woman. I say young woman, she's about 45. It's a Beckman Institute, and she knows why, but the body cannot use drugs intaken through the mouth when the body was designed by evolution to produce a lot of these same drugs in certain ways and metered times, and we are the survivors of all kinds of bad experiments, and so all the best experiments in evolutionary history are now embodied in us. And our bodies know what to do if we do the right thing. But you're never going to take a pill and get strong. It's not going to happen. This is amazing. World Health Organization has a code MG2A, old age. That's a disease. That means a doctor can prescribe a cure for old age, and he gets paid for it by the insurance companies. It's a big deal when something's called a disease. UK, this could be one of the most important documents in human history. I'll bet my bottom dollar none of your guys' personal doctors know that old age and aging is now a disease. I'll bet they don't know it. The top guys say this is one of the most important documents in world history. And now they say we're beginning to understand aging is something that can be reversed. You never heard that before. I will show you, I'm going to really go fast here, I'll show you that you can actually make your cells younger by certain kinds of exercise. You make the cell walls younger. And you can increase your energy output by about 70%. Who wouldn't want that? Now, you have to go to a gym. You have to learn how to do the exercises. You have to, in my teaching, I forget weight. Everybody's been told you should lose weight. People are sick of weight. It's all about strength. If you are strong, everything else will fall into place. That's what I teach, and I'm right. And not me. I mean, I read other people's research and tell you about it. Nobody else is doing this. I'll bet none of you have ever heard, you may have heard corners or smithers of this. You've never heard anything this dramatic. And it's all about, I hear it again. We've got to have drugs that mimic exercise. Why not exercise? There's no side effects to exercise. Every drug, when you hear these drugs advertised, they start with the side effects. I said, my wife and I started laughing because nobody in the right mind for what you gain by would ever take the drug. Okay, what's caused this? There's a worldwide pandemic of inactivity. Back in, as I'll show you later on, if we had the amount of activity, physical activity, the world had in 1900, we wouldn't have any of these diseases. All these diseases are caused by total inactivity. And doctors will always feel they have to say, get some exercise, but they don't know what to do. I ask them, what do you tell your patients to do? I don't know. If you don't exercise, do you? I can see your pot belly. My second son-in-law with a big pot belly is a surgeon. By the way, over the door of the Ranger School, it says a pot belly cannot lead men. That's not why it's bad. Pot bellies take 10 years off your life. You've read some of that lately, I'm sure, that the reason that all these hormones and chemicals and things, when you get fat inside by your intestines, you get everything radiated and it kills you. Literally, it's poisonous. The pandemic. 82 million Americans are totally sedentary. The average American woman does not get 1 hour a year of intense physical exercise. 1 hour. 66% of Americans. insufficiently active to be healthy. By the way, I'm not going to read all these. You all can read, you know. I know that. I've asked them. They say everybody here can read. So, but I'll emphasize things that there's time for you to read things. Now, you don't just want to hear me reading things that you can read. I get it. 40% of American women are obese today. 40%. 85, the most serious health problem of our time is our sedentary lifestyles. Most serious health problem of our time, period. 80% of all children are at serious risk of disease because of inactivity. 57, almost 60% of 2-year-olds today will be obese at age 35, the way they're going. Obesity costs about $1 trillion of the $2 trillion we spend on healthcare. I've said, why don't we just charge less to people who are fit and more for people who are obese? You can't do that. Obesity is fine. Everybody should be, you know. Somebody needs to say, we got to make it painful to be obese. We got to fine people. We got to charge them more because we're having to pay for their health insurance and they're all dying. Or worse than that, they're staying alive and for years and years and years. World Health Organization, 2/3 of all kids today are insufficiently active. 2/3. I've got 12 grandkids, 8 of them are boys. And I say to my daughters, I said, Ann and Susan, I said, none of them could beat me in anything. I'm an 87-year-old grandfather. And these guys are 25 and 30 and they're very well mannered and they dress well and got okay haircuts and things. None of them have any strength. They're like overcooked macaroni. I'm serious. And my daughter said, Daddy, the world has changed. And I said, no, mothers have changed. The world hasn't changed. But think of that. Just my little world. You know, well-to-do people, surgeons for fathers and all that. And none of them can beat me at skiing or golf or basketball. My grandkids, and they're men. They're not little 13-year-old guys, okay? That's terrible. American Heart Association, they say it's all lifestyle. And it boils down to 2 things, diet and exercise. Smoking and that kind of stuff basically nobody smokes anymore. But lifestyle, look at this. Changing exercise and diet would create a 400% improvement in health outcomes. 400%. That's amazing, 4 times. 80% of the non-communicable diseases could be prevented at World Health Organization by lifestyle changes, exercise and diet. 80%. That means that 80% of our healthcare costs could be eliminated if people just learn what I have to teach, and nobody else is teaching. People are saying nice things. You should get some exercise, but they say, and the government standards have been so watered down that they're almost meaningless. Go for a nice 10-minute walk after dinner. You have to know this. We have 2 kinds of muscles in our bodies, fast twitch and slow twitch. Slow twitch muscles are the endurance muscles. When you go for a slow jog, you're getting your endurance muscles, your slow twitch muscles. People are different, but 40% of our muscles are slow twitch muscles. They're endurance. Okay. 60% are fast twitch. The only way to exercise fast twitch is with fast twitch sports, heavy weights to failure, running sprints, get your pulse up to 190, let it get back to 90 up and down, get on a track, run, drive yourself, all those kind of things. Most people over the age of 50 never exercise any of their fast twitch muscles. You use them for skiing, you use them for golf, you use them for tennis, you use them for sprinting. You use them to keep from falling down. The way it is now, you get a little off balance and your fast twitch muscles are so weak you don't recover and you fall down and break your hip. You spend a week in the hospital, you lose the rest of your strength. And most people in their 70s that fall down and break a hip, big chunk of them are dead within a year. Big chunk. It's really scary when you look at the data. This is American Heart Association says doctors don't give any lifestyle counseling that's meaningful. They quote all kinds of doctors that say, I don't know how to advise patients on exercise. It's not taught in any medical schools in America. Exercise physiologists learn it. Guys are going to be strength coaches or high school coaches or something like that. But you can put I gave a talk to a bunch of surgeons recently, and I said, you know, I'm a trial lawyer, and I defend malpractice cases. A lot of them. I said, this is the biggest malpractice case in history. Every patient you have that's over 50 needs to be told that there's ways of preventing frailty and not getting these chronic diseases and keep them from falling down. You don't do it. The science is there, you never bother reading it. And they don't read it, they don't know it, they don't know what to say. In the medical profession, I said, I've got this granddaughter that's an investigative reporter. I'm getting to the point where I say, this is a scandal. There's way less scandals than that. A guy says the wrong thing on the telephone, that's way worse than this. But lives are being ruined. There's a cure for it, and the medical profession doesn't teach it in medical schools, and none of them know anything about it. I mean, when I say none, I mean none. Once in a while, skiing, I'll meet a guy, and he'll be a doctor, and he'll be kind of burly. I'll say, you pump iron, don't you? And they're different. And I'll tell you, how many here have heard of telomeres? That's amazing. Real quickly, telomeres are tails on your chromosomes. They're on there so when your cells divide, the chromosomes don't screw up your DNA and get mixed together with their little tails. To live, your cells have to divide. Every time your cells divide, the telomeres get shorter. When the telomeres get short, you die, except 1 million 1 million patients in Germany, people who for years engage in intense physical activity, have long telomeres, and they walk, look, act, think, move, and do everything like they're 20 years younger. They don't live 20 years longer, but while they're alive, they live a life that's equivalent to 20, 30, 40 years younger. My son, who's 60, said he's got a lot of friends that are 45. They say, my knees hurt, my back hurts, I give up skiing. He lives over in Alta, skis little shoots over there, and his friends are all quitting now. Okay. The few hunter-gatherer civilizations that exist have less heart disease, better arteries, and less dementia than the most civilized nation in the world, which is us. What's happened is medicine has won the battle against infectious diseases. When my grandfather was born, and this always gets people, believe it or not, my grandfather, my paternal grandfather, was born in 1845. That's what a short time this nation's been around. My grandfather was 20 when Lincoln was shot. When he was born, his life expectancy was 40 years. Now it's much higher only because they've gotten rid of all these infectious diseases, cured them all, typhoid and smallpox and all those, okay? But they've done nothing about these chronic diseases. Half of Americans have a chronic disease. And chronic diseases kill something like 12 million Americans a year. And it can't be totally stopped, but they can be largely prevented. And the medical profession doesn't teach you guys. Your doctors don't teach you. It is malpractice. For most people, old age is nasty, brutish, and long. Okay, this is Zeke Emanuel. I put this up here, a big article in Atlantic Magazine. Life is so awful after 75, no one should live longer than 75. He says he's not going to take any medicine or do anything after 75 because life is just awful. Life is not awful, my friends. I've never been happier in my long life than I am right now doing the things I've always done and just feeling lucky beyond belief. And then he's written this in a long article. He says, pneumonia is a great invention. It gives you a painless, quick death. That is the state of, I'm not exaggerating when I say that's the state of medical science in America on aging. None of them get it. I can't tell you the number of doctors that I've lectured, people from all over the world. And some of them, a guy from Austria came up to me recently, he's a heart guy. And he said, he was crying. I didn't say that. I didn't know this, my life's ruined. I said, Doc, you got enough stones to be a cardiac surgeon. You can learn, you can do a little exercise. But they don't get it. And it's hard to emphasize. If you wanted to name one thing that you don't want to see happen in the last 30 years of your life, is falling down, breaking a hip, and being disabled, being unable to get out of bed. You know, I tell people, if you don't watch out, you're going to be wearing a diaper and being in bed. All those internal organs all work way better when you exercise. Now, you're going to say, how can it be? They also get way smarter when you do intense exercise. Well, how can that be? I'll explain it. It's very simple, way simpler than we think. Alzheimer's, all the Alzheimer's drugs have failed. Mayo Clinic just did a study. After 6 months of exercise, those who exercised had improved. 9 years was taken off their cognitive age in 6 months of exercise. I mean, you guys are all successful. We've all had wonderful lives. We're lucky beyond belief. The one thing everybody fears secretly is Alzheimer's. 6 months of exercise, 9 years, there were 9 years were taken off their cognitive age. They were 9 years younger mentally. 9 years! And look at this. Those who didn't exercise increased their cognitive age by 9 months. So this happens fast. To me, that is all anybody in this room needs to know. That's all you need to know. And I've got the sites on all this stuff on these papers. I'm not inventing this stuff. Sometimes people say that can't be true. I said it is true. I spent 10 years researching this stuff, getting up at 3 o'clock every morning. Prevention. 1 hour of exercise a week halves your chance of getting Alzheimer's. Halves. Now, exercise is intense exercise. It's not, a nice slow walk. Exercise reduces dementia. APOE4 gene, that's if you have a parent with had Alzheimer's, your chance of getting Alzheimer's is pretty high. You've got 1 copy of the gene probably. If you have 2 copies, you're a goner. NeuYork Times, peer-reviewed stuff. Lifting heavy weights neutralizes the Alzheimer's gene. Why neutralizes it? I saw the look on your face, man. But it is. But shouldn't you have known that before now? Shouldn't the medical profession be telling everybody that? For example, you don't know. I bet there's not one person here that knows that if you're over 65, you get a free gym membership. Anybody know that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, great. Well, that's good. I mean, it's free. I should have known. Silver Sinkers, right. Most people don't know that. This is an affluent group, and, more likely to read and know that kind of stuff. But people who spend the most energy working out have 90% lower odds of having cognitive decline. I just keep saying this. I want you to be so soaked in this that you walk out of here feeling both panicked and hopeful. Because you don't want to have those bad things happen, and they don't have to happen. Let's look at this. Energy levels. Mitochondria. Mitochondria in your cells, they produce a molecule that transports chemical energy to the right place at the right time. Older people, mitochondria get weaker as you get older. Look at this. Older people who do high-intensity interval training saw a 68% increase in mitochondrial capacity. Energy. Once in a while I start feeling kind of tired and I think, oh my God, is it happening at last? But it doesn't have to happen. Look at this. Harvard. These things we are seeing cannot be done by any medicine. We're spending all our money on pharma. Everything's pharma. Drugs are the answer. Take a pill. Americans are lazy. Everybody wants to take a pill. Doesn't work. It never will work. None of these things will never be effective because of the way evolution works, and I'll get to that in a minute. Why don't doctors know this? Look at this. Here is medical school. Here is exercise physiology. Doctors think people thinking exercise physiology are kind of trampy and they're kids and they just want to be coaches or something. It's kind of a waste of time. I've taught this the top PhD exercise physiology at all the universities I know people at. These guys are amazing, and they don't talk to the doctors, and the doctors don't talk to them. There's no communication. Okay, this. I put this up because to me this sort of summarizes the stunning power of the evidence that I'm showing you. Harvard, CDC, and UK medical colleges, different ones of them say these things. Exercise is the fountain of youth, a silver bullet that reverses the aging of our cells. These guys are cautious, conservative people. They're not Dr. Oz. Everything, if you take prune juice, you'll get 6 feet tall or something like that. But look at this. A fountain of youth is exercise. A silver bullet. And these are conservative people that are saying this. Look at this one. A wonder drug. A miracle cure. A miracle cure. Doctors never talk about cures. They're talking about a cure. Because it does cure it. If you get stronger, I've collected a group of people who were, I'll give you a typical example. A 55-year-old woman had a couple of bad marriages, fortunately a daughter had birth defects, and she was living in a little town in Arkansas, and the only job she could get was in a nursing home, changing old men's diapers, and she wasn't making any money, and she was just beaten down like this. She was 55. I got her on the StrongPath. 10 years later, she's leading real estate salesperson in Auburn, Alabama. Everything changes. If you're strong, you just feel better about yourself, and it stays with you. And you can do things you never thought you could do. And another guy was ready to get fired by a Lilly company. He had a PhD in organic chemistry, and he weighed about 350 pounds. He said he was afraid to fly because he was so embarrassed when he got on a plane. He was supposed to go to Europe, and he didn't want to go because he was embarrassed walking down the streets. 3 years later, he weighs 220. He's cut, and he's head of their foreign operations. It's not vanity. Vanity's fine. If vanity makes you do something, that's fine. But this is not about vanity. This is about changing every single thing about you and the way you think about everything. And you're like I said, I'm 87. I'm a jury lawyer. I'm in court. I keep telling my wife, she comes every trial. Old men sometimes think they haven't slowed down. You see me slowing down, you raise your hand, and I'll quit trying cases. It's like a surgeon would have to quit. But I'm doing fine. I'm winning. I'm the same guy I always was. No better, no worse. But the point is that there's all this research on how intense physical exercise causes the growth of additional neurons in your brain, additional connections. You think quicker. Everything happens better. It's almost too good to be true. And sometimes my wife Janice said, you shouldn't show all this stuff. It's just overwhelming. But I want to overwhelm you. I don't want you to remember any one thing, but I want you to see that there's no downsides to this, and there's so many upsides that I can't even explain them all in 50 minutes.
So Fred?
Yeah.
What should the audience do? What's the game plan? What's the start here, do this, do this, do this.
I'll finish with that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm getting there. I know exactly what to do. Okay, I got to cover this. Why in the world would all these things be affected by exercise? So I'll put them all up here. I'm not going to talk about each one. Our genome today is exactly the same as it was 50,000 years ago. It hasn't changed any. Our genome is a product of natural selection. We all heard that term. We remember a little bit about it from high school biology. Natural selection means that when you're born, each one of us, when we were born and our ancestors were born, we have from 50 to 100 mutations in our cells. Some are good, some are bad, some are neutral. The bad ones don't get in the gene pool because you don't have as many progeny. You die earlier if you have a bad mutation. The neutral ones just don't necessarily get in. What gets in the gene pool are the good mutations. A good mutation to a biologist is anything that makes you a better competitor. By competitor, they mean live a little longer and have a few more progeny. So the way it's worked, there have been probably a million years, millions of natural selection. Our bodies are perfectly designed for the world that they were designed for. Not just our muscles, our teeth, our eyes, our neurons, our circulatory system. Every single part of our body was like picked by a master surgeon and said, we'll have this, we'll have this. So our bodies were perfectly designed for the climate that they were selected in. That was a climate, this is Lieberman's stuff at Harvard. The climate was one of intense 24-hour physical activity. Saber-tooth tigers, hunting, walking, feeding your family, all those things. Lieberman says that a typical man 50,000 years ago would look like an NFL player today. They were athletes, they were strong, and so on and so on. So our bodies are completely designed for a world of intense physical activity. That's what they're for. They're crying out for it. A body expects and requires us to be physically active. Our body's crying out for it, and yet most are sedentary. And that's what Lieberman says then, he calls that the mismatch theory. Our bodies are designed perfectly for this world, and now they're in a sedentary world they weren't designed for. And he says that 50,000 years ago, these chronic diseases basically didn't exist. They're mainly a product of our bodies not being matched. This is the top, one of the top medical guys at Harvard, written a book on it. It's a great book, and he explains very carefully and precisely what happens when bodies designed for one world are forced to compete in another. And he says, for our bodies to adapt for the new world, it'll be another million years. I'm not waiting around for that. I'd rather. So if you bring that old world that they were designed for, bring it in and live in it yourself, you're doing what your body needs desperately. Physical inactivity is a primary cause of most chronic diseases, all cancers. Well, here's the Harvard study. Cancer mortality rates are 50% higher in people that don't have strength. 50% higher mortality rates. Tumor suppressor genes, much more active. They do what the title sounds like. They are more active when people exercise. Risk of colon cancer is reduced by 31%. Breast cancer by as much as 80% by intense exercise. Even in former smokers, physical activity reduces lung cancer by 23%. Prostate patients reduces chance of death of cancer by 61%. And all-cause death by 46%. Dr. Crawford, who's the top prostate guy at the University of Colorado, is a friend of mine, and we're thinking of building here in Denver an exercise facility that's designed to ward off these chronic diseases, because there's nothing like it. You go to Anschutz Center, they've got this gigantic building there with a fabulous gym, and nobody's in it. Nobody. This is Harvard. Harvard Medical School. Prevented or delayed by intense exercise. All these diseases. Again, I keep saying any one of these would be enough to sell the program. Sedentary lifestyles double risk of these diseases. Okay. They studied the curriculums of medical schools. Only 12% had any type of required course in exercise physiology. Doctors aren't being taught. They can't teach you because nobody's taught them. And my one son-in-law is the top surgeon at a big, huge, wonderful Big Ten research institution, medical school. It's not mentioned. I go there and I meet with his colleagues and I ask them this stuff. They're like children. They don't get it. They're not been taught it. And what's happened is these doctors are great at, they're 9 miles deep and about a millimeter wide, but when you get outside what they're going down, they're not guys that are intensely curious about everything in the world like most of us are. They've learned they can make a great living and save lives by just staying in their lane. Okay, this is sort of my recap here. Okay. The good news is that you can turn this around, each individual can quickly, more quickly than you would expect. People who start to exercise in midlife can quickly gain most of the longevity benefits of working out. Physical activity, dementia by 60%. Older people who start to lift weights typically gain muscle mass, strength, mobility, mental sharpness, and metabolic health. Pretty quick. You see, losing weight is a hard thing, but to get stronger, you don't have to build muscles. A big part of your strength comes in your neurological system. You have motor units in you. And these muscles you have here, motor units in here, flex the muscles. When you don't ever use them in fast twitch muscles, these motor units forget how to make the muscle work. And you can't use your fast twitch muscles because the motor units have given up. Some are even deciding to become slow twitch motor units. But within 3 or 4 months, those motor units relearn what they were supposed to be doing all these years. So you get your strength comes before your muscle size comes. You can easily, the typical person in their 70s that's sedentary can easily triple their strength in 3 or 4 months. And when you do that, then you feel good about yourself and you want to do more. And when this people I've been collecting, I'm looking for people that are nice people, that know something bad's happening to them, but I'm not picking Olympic athletes. I'm trying to pick nice people, and once they start doing this, I could write a book on the reports of a doctor recently. 5 years ago, I ran into this guy and I said, "You're frail." He's 20 years younger than me, and he said, "No, I run marathons and I inject mare's urine into my knees or something like that." I said, "Well, you're going to die because you're frail." Without telling me, he started about a year ago with weights. He's probably 75 now, something like that. He said, he called me the other day, he said, "Fred, people are saying to me, you look so young, you look different, what's going on?" He's got it now. I said, "Write for my website." I've got a website where I collect these things. There's no ads on it. I pay for it myself. It's called StrongPath.com. But I collect what these people have to say and how it's changed their lives. It's not just my crazy ideas. This really works, okay? Okay. I always put something last that you'll remember, and then I'll answer your question. So we're okay time-wise. The woman on the right there, that's when my grandmother looked at 74. Jenny Bartlit lived to be 101, but her last 40 years, she was always sitting looking out the window like that with her hands folded, and she was just, you felt like if you got near her and moved too suddenly, something might break off. And all my aunts and uncles, we were a long-lived family, all my aunts and uncles were all that way, they were all frail. This woman is the same age. You can be like that. Look at her. I mean, she's like she's from a different planet. But you can do that. You don't have to be like, and then. And this is the key. Forget weight. I'm going to show you 2 pictures of the same woman. The same weight. Look at her on the right. She's hot. On the left, she's obese. All she did is start lifting weights. She's transformed more than you could ever imagine transforming anybody solely by spending 18 months pumping iron. You've got quarrel that you could use a few pounds, but, this is a good thing to remember. Those changes are so profound that anybody can do this. Now, how do you get started? This is not easy because you got to check with your doctor. Your doctor is probably going to say, "Gee, I don't know," because he doesn't know. You should maybe you shouldn't do too much. When I testified as a witness at the National Institute of Health hearing on frailty with aging, that one of the doctors there said, "Well, what do you do?" I said, I ski about 60 days a year. I play my son's basketball team, and I can shoot my aging golf. He said, "You should stop all that immediately." He said, "You're going to fall down, you won't be able to get up." I said, "Doctor, with all due deference, you're crazy." He said, "Nobody should do that. It's wrong. You shouldn't be teaching people that." Okay? I'm not wrong. But you do have to, there's certain kinds of blood pressure situations where a heavy weight too soon can cause problems. I'm not giving you any medical advice. That you've got to tread your way through this because you want to be sure that you talk to your doctor, and he's probably going to say, "Don't do it." And then you're going to ruin your life. So I think in my world, the best way to get started is the way my wife got me started. She found a trainer. I went to the gym all the time. I worked with a trainer back then. I probably paid $15 an hour. It costs money. Soon, doctors will be able to prescribe. You need exercise. And right now, I've got the head of all the exercise physiologists in America on my board of directors. And he's collecting all these. He said there's all these brilliant young men and women that have studied exercise physiology. They don't make any money, but they can help. And he's collecting them and getting them organized so that if a doctor prescribes, and I can't get into all the digital stuff, I just don't have the time, but we're gonna have a situation where if you're frail, immediately you get put in touch with an exercise physiologist who's qualified in what we teach, because I've got this academic on my board. Everything I do is peer reviewed, and then he'll say, I'll give you a written program to follow, or if you want me to go to a gym with you and get you started, I'll do that. And the insurance companies are paying for it now, because you know, I'm a good salesman. That's what I do for a living. I say this is the only everybody wins situation in the history I've ever seen. There are 4 people involved in health: patients, doctors, insurance companies, federal government. Everybody gains through getting the word out there. The patients gain because they have way happier lives. I'm not talking about living longer. I'm talking about wildly happier lives. The doctors gain because now they don't get paid anything if they diagnose frailty. Now they're getting $200 if they just diagnose it from the insurance company, and then they call one of my guys and he gives them a diagnosis. So doctors gain, patients gain, insurance companies gain. Why are the insurance companies willing to do this? Because the overwhelming cost of insurance is keeping these people with chronic diseases alive for decades. They used to die early of infectious diseases. Now you got 30 more years to get sick from these chronic diseases that are unbelievably costly. Half American health care comes from 5% of the patients.